What is up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me I have some more RPG horror stories. Speaking of RPGs, I have another player that's interested in DMing. She just ran her very first session just recently, and honestly, for a first timer, she did good. She did better than me. I'm looking forward to see more of my friends get into DMing and just see what DMing is like, so maybe eventually I'll be able to finally play as a player. To be honest, I also love DMing and stuff, so like, I don't know, I'm a little bit split. Part of me was like, I wish I could play as a player, but part of me is like, I want to DM this too. Nevertheless, let's get some RPG horror stories for today. First time as a player. Is that always this bad? I've been playing for about 9.5 years, but the whole time I've been the forever DM. Today was the first session of an online campaign I joined in an effort to begin playing instead of DMing. First PC to be introduced had a noble background, 2014 rules, and decided without asking the GM that he had a magical water elemental fox thing. The opening scene included a child biting into an apple, significant because of in-universe lore, and then beginning to convulse. I, playing a druid, tried to cast detect poison and try to figure it out. This play interrupted me twice while I tried to speak to the DM, and then told, not asked, the DM that because they were a noble, they should sneak into an off-limit space and roll without being asked. Then they got snippy when I cast the spell and asked why I was trying to overtake their roleplay moment. Throughout the hour-long session, which is another tidbit that annoyed me, they repeated that they were a noble 7 of 8 times. His wife was also speaking and making jokes with him the entire time. Okay, just because your player character is a noble doesn't mean your player gets to just do whatever the hell they want because they're a noble. Nobility comes with certain privileges, but also doesn't mean that you just get to enter wherever you want and do whatever you want. I think the problem here is that you have a really crappy DM, or the DM is in cahoots with the noble player and specifically instructed the situation so that you guys are just an audience member for this noble character's, special main character moment or something. It's kind of what it feels like. It feels like a main character moment that's being set up specifically to make the noble character look kind of cool, but also to be rude towards you and be completely unnecessarily rude and toxic towards you was just completely uncalled for. And the fact that DM didn't step in to tell him to stop doing that kind of tells more about the DM maybe being a bit of a pushover or being in cahoots with the noble player than anything else. I feel like it's just bad game you joined. Honestly, it's an exception, but you joined an exceptionally bad game with an exceptionally bad DM, an exceptionally bad noble player. There's still more to this story, so let's see how this concludes. The DM also did not work whatsoever to integrate player backstories into the campaign. One of the other characters is our Dragonborn, and I, playing half Dragonborn, half Elf, wanted to roll to make sure I didn't recognize him from a city in my backstory. The other players had written in memory loss, so I gave it up to the DM to decide. The DM stayed completely quiet because asking what city I was talking about. I understand that this can be another style of DMing that I just don't personally use, but I can't tell if it's lazy or bad DMing as well. I'm really excited about this character. I don't want to just leave after only one session. But as I've never played as a player before, I'm unsure if this is just par for the course or how to bring this up to my DM in a respectful way. Just be straight up with them and ask them, are they experienced DM, or are they confused about what's going on, or are they even going to use the backstories at all for whatsoever? Because if they don't even read the backstory, even though the backstory is required, if they don't care for the character's story and not going to integrate character's backstory into the world, there's a backstory for the characters that's required apparently, then it kind of feels like bad DMing. It feels like somebody that's inexperienced and has no idea what to do. Somebody is literally asleep at the wheel over here. You could try to talk to the DM and see if that's just something they have planned out, or maybe they just don't care, or maybe they don't treat backstories super seriously or something. I'm not fully sure, but at the end of the day, I feel like your best chance is just to get out before it gets worse. No D&D is better than bad D&D, and your time is way better spent looking for other good games out there to play instead of playing this bad game, honestly. The spookiest Strahd. My brother and I were having so much fun in our regular game. One another. We knew a guy, not exactly a friend, that was keen to DM for us along with his friend and girlfriend. No session 0 or character prep. No house rules. All we know is that we're gonna play Curse of Strahd, the D&D published adventure. The first session takes an hour to start as the girlfriend begins learning to play and the DM friends throws a character together that he names Bob the Fighter. We didn't hate on the girlfriend learning, beginners are always welcome, but then the game starts. The DM sits down with us, no screen, and opens the adventure book. He hasn't read any of it. He gets us through the first part okay, but as soon as we want to explore, it all falls apart. Most exchanges went like this. Does the guard know anything? Hang on. No. Can we go inside the building? Yes. The game lasted 3 sessions! How did it last 3 sessions like this? I can't believe it! Gotta be lies! 3 sessions of this, ending with us leading an uprising on a local village against the spooky overlords. Really, it was our only option since we couldn't make headway in with the pre-written plot lines on account of the DM not knowing how to set them up. DM couldn't handle our improvisation because his lack of prep or imagination left him with nothing to flip. He never called us to schedule another session. They never scheduled another session because they probably didn't read to that part specifically where they're supposed to schedule another session, most likely. They got to the part where it's like, okay, so we schedule a 3rd session, then we got to the part where we're supposed to schedule the 4th session. Insanity. I can't believe somebody would do that. You would think you would read a little bit, read ahead of time for the story and try to improvise a little bit, but to just not read anything at all and just go along with it and just completely unprepared, and you just need to flip through the pages to figure out if players can or cannot do anything without realizing what improv is nuts, dude. Insane. Can't believe that lasted 3 sessions. That was 3 sessions for y'all. How? That's a miracle in itself. That must be some sort of like a secret anomaly or something. Crazy. Right. Well, let's get to the next story for today. My throat's getting a little bit dry and parched. You can kind of hear it's a little scratchy. I sound like an anime protagonist without even trying. So let's get to the last story being our last one for today. Player burnout. So I'm new to this Reddit, and I want to just start off by saying I'm a long-time DM of various kinds of players and personalities. I have about 7-ish years of experience, and I've ran at least 20 plus games to completion. But I seem to have stumbled upon something my experience couldn't quite figure out. Tone setting in games are vital, as we know. These problems are typical solved during session 0 after all. I had to talk with this particular group, and they all agreed that we'd like to have a serious game. One with high stakes and really meaningful moments that are heartfelt, horrifying, and feel good even. The discussion ensured that we were okay with the topics and we all had an easygoing time understanding what we all wanted. Fast forward a bit now, where the current issue is. As it stands, players seem to not understand keeping that tone. Perhaps it's burnout or perhaps it's player burnout, but I have a hunch that my players are forgetting I'm a player at the table. I've discussed with them about this and honestly it really doesn't seem like it's sticking. Last couple of sessions I've had one of my players actively cursing at me in a heated moment of the game where I had to talk to them aside and tell him that it's not acceptable to cuss at me just because I'm playing the villain. It would have been different if he said it as his character directed it to the villain, but he actively pointed at me and cursed me out upon circumventing one of my encounters as if he outsmarted me. This same player also tends to overcomplicate rules and tries to compare a role-playing game to real life. I get it, that's part of it, but it's getting to the point of that classic drown someone using shape water cantrip issue. Trying to problem solve every issue with the spells instead of letting others shine in the spotlight. Main character syndrome and all. In all honesty, I've been straightforward with my players and telling them that I've never put a cheap trick against them. I think that defeats the purpose of D&D, but this player is combative with me when it comes to these things when I never warranted it in my opinion. I think fair challenges are funnier than impossible challenges. It has to be a two-way street. You gotta be fair, but your players gotta be fair with it as well. And this player constantly tries to circumvent stuff and starts barking at you even though it's not in character and stuff. I feel like that's just the player not able to differentiate between IRL and fantasy. I feel like the big problem here is that your player is trying to win a D&D. They're trying to beat the bad guy, win D&D, and be the one person standing. Also, for whatever reason, yelling at you and cursing at you even though it's not in character is really strange and weird. I think the focusing specifically that the DM is there and they're my enemy. This is PvP, this is player versus DM. I need to outsmart and win against the DM, when the fact they don't need to do that. They just need to, let their hair down and just have fun. If they're attempting to solve everything through cheesy stuff like cantrip, shape water to drown the enemy kind of crap, then I feel like they're not really playing for fun. They're trying to play to win. And like there's no winning in D&D. Winning is playing together. That's the whole point of playing D&D. You win by playing together, not playing against the DM. This is just one of the players that seem to drive me up the wall. I have another player in the same group who actively had to bring up memes and impromptu jokes in the middle of serious moments. There's been several times that the player had actively made a joke out of serious things and moments. Again, another talk aside, and we'll forget it, only for it to start up again. One example is how I've put the countless hours of making an encounter with a villain fun and memorable, something to really emphasize the grandeur of this villain. Yet the meme player has to say something to just ruin the moment. Just like how the villain is barefoot and proceeds to make weird foot fetish jokes. Another example is how there was a serious moment of unalive being discussed between an NPC and a different player. And the player who just had to bring up the jokes really made a joke out of the unalive depression one for the player's hat. I had yet another talk, but it isn't sticking at all, as these jokes keep coming up and they keep trying to tie the jokes back into the game. More discussion, more talking about what the player wants, but I still can't get it to stick. If something as simple as asking, hey, quit making inappropriate jokes can't get to stick, you should probably remove the player from your game. Simple as that. I don't know whether the player is trying to be a class clown. I don't know why your player is trying to be the class clown basically in front of everybody, or who they're trying to entertain, or if they even entertaining anybody whatsoever at all. But this is the kind of stuff that's honestly just, I feel like it's just inappropriate and shouldn't be warranted whatsoever. It shouldn't be tolerated, it shouldn't be warranted. You should probably try to get the player removed entirely and not have them be in there. Because if you can't take something seriously and everything has to be a joke, like who are you trying to make laugh? Who are you trying to be funny for? You try to garner attention for somebody, even though the game, you all agreed, everybody in the game agreed to be more of a serious game. Trying to make it not serious is just big farce and completely unnecessary, and just, you don't need that sort of thing, honestly. I think the overall tone of the game has changed, honestly. It isn't something serious anymore. And I know this probably wouldn't be a horror story, but it's kind of it is for me. I put in a lot of effort to this game, and I've tried ensuring everyone's having a good time and try to address issue, but it gets spat on and essentially forgotten about when it comes to the work I put in. Makes me feel as though my players forget I'm also playing at the table as well. I've been hanging a knife over the cord of this game for some time now, and a high time think it's the moment to cut the cord. This isn't the game we agreed on, and other players have expressed that to me. Kicking out players isn't an option, unfortunately. I'm somewhat expecting criticism for this, perhaps even hate, but I figured I'd share with you all anyways, perhaps see if there's similar experiences. A wise crab once said, no D&D is better than bad D&D. I'm planning on inviting the more polite players to another game. I've learned that not all friends are D&D friends. That's some really wise words from a really wise crab. I think you should follow that advice, my friend. Honestly, God, my throat is so dead at this point. I'm gonna just finish up my thoughts before my throat completely dies off. Basically, what I think is going on, you have a couple of rude players and a couple of polite players. The rude players are definitely creating a problem because they're not playing with you, they're playing against you, or they're not treating you like a player at the table. As a DM, you're also still a player at the table. You're just not playing a player character. You're playing the world and NPCs and everything else in between. You're playing as the arbiter of the world, but you're still a player at the table and should be given the equal respect. If other players are rude about it and kicking players is just not an option, screw it. Start your own thing, invite just the polite players, find some more polite players that also want the same thing you want, and more serious storytelling where people can actually take the moment seriously, and then go from there. The players that initially agree to the thing aren't adhering to their side of the contract, to the verbal contract about session 0, to stay serious in character and try to work well together and everything. As a DM, you're also a player, and you're also entitled to having fun and enjoying yourself. And if this current game is just not working out, probably best to go ahead and leave it, start something else with the polite players. Also, why can't you kick the players out? What would be wrong? Would you just cause a whole meltdown? Is this not your server that you're running? Are you joining somebody else? Is one of the people, like one of the main character or the jokey character, are they the ones like server owners or whatever? If that's the case, then so be it. Make your own server, make your own game, and just start a brand new game with people that actually want to play a serious game instead of being a main protagonist a-hole, or somebody that just makes fun of everything, including self-harm as well, which is really uncomfortable. Honestly, it feels really weird. What kind of person has to be so depraved to go out of the way to start joking about self-harm, and specifically picking on a player that actually has some sort of like, you know, self-harm kind of thoughts as well, or some sort of history with depression? That's not okay. That's not okay thing to do. And the fact that you're putting your foot down, I think is a good thing. It's a good thing that you're standing up for your own enjoyment and for the enjoyment of other people at the table. Start a brand new game. Don't invite the problem players in. Have the polite players join in. Maybe invite a couple more people that you know are vetted, that you know are going to be like in it for the story and stuff, and go from there. I wish you good luck. And like the wise crab says, no D&D is better than bad D&D. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales tomorrow. Bye-bye.